Nigeria versus South Africa, Super Falcons versus Banyana for a place in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Wow. Hello, welcome back to the Naija FC podcast. This is another fantastic episode, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. We are going to be previewing the Olympic qualifying matches between the Super Falcons of Nigeria and Banyana of South Africa. As always, bringing this episode to you, I'm your host, AyoT, and I have with me my reliable co-host,
Smith Layi. Thanks for
Yes,
joining.
thank you very much for joining us. Wherever you're listening or you're watching, this is going to be an interesting one. As I mentioned, the Super Falcons are doing battle against Banyana of South Africa for a place at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Wow. The Super Falcons have not been to the Olympics since 2008 in Beijing. And this is an opportunity for them to get there again. But unfortunately, there's one final hurdle that we have to get over. There's one final hoop that we have to go through. There's one final opponent, and it happens to be a team that has battled with us over the years, a team that has, also caused us some issues over the years. I'm talking about Banyana of South Africa. Before we get into it, let us just do a quick recap of how we even got to this stage of the competition and to this round. Nigeria, of course, as well as South Africa, entered into the qualifying series from the second round. Because we're one of the better sides at the AFCON 2022, we didn't have to play in the first round. In the second round, the Super Falcons beat Ethiopia 5-1 over 2 legs. Soundly beat Ethiopia, whereas South Africa beat DR Congo 3-1 over 2 legs. Moving on to the third round, Nigeria were drawn up against the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon. It was a cagey affair. There was even some rumors of juju involved, but the Super Falcons were able to get a 1-0 victory over Cameroon in the third round, whereas South Africa soundly defeated Tanzania 4-0 in their own tie. And then that brings us to this game, the fourth round, Nigeria versus South Africa, Super Falcons versus Banyana for a place in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Wow. Smith Layi, how excited are you for this match that is coming up?
In fact, I'm even more excited about this game compared, than the World Cup qualifying in June. Because I want to go to Paris. I want to go and see my people, Falcons, play. So this is a make or break. And I'm very, I can't wait for Friday to come. I really want to see them play against South Africa. And don't forget that, it doesn't come bigger than this. South Africa is the current African champion. And we are the number 1 ranked team in Africa. So, 9 times winners, So it's a very, very game that, it's a mouth-watering game. And I can't wait for the game to start.
Yeah, it's definitely a mouth-watering game. It's a game that I'm very excited to see. I think that both teams are going to be charged up for this one. And of course, we already know that South Africa are taking this very seriously. We've heard that they've arrived in Nigeria about 5 days before the game is supposed to take place. They are already getting prepared. They are getting acclimatized. Their team is coming together, and they really, really want to win this game. Let's look at the head-to-head between the sides. We might find it interesting to know that in the meetings that we've had against Banyana of South Africa have won 3 matches, and the Super Falcons have won 2 games, with 1 draw that Nigeria ended up winning after penalty shootouts. So if you count it as a win, it will be 3-3. But that just shows you that South Africa have not been an easy foe for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. The interesting part is that in the recent meetings, in the last 2 meetings, South Africa have had the better of Nigeria. I'm talking about a 2-1 victory for South Africa at AFCON 2022 in the group stage, as well as a 4-2 victory for them in 2021 in what was the Aisha Buhari Cup that took place in Nigeria, back then in Lagos. So South Africa would go into this game, quote unquote, believing that they have everything that it takes to defeat the Super Falcons of Nigeria. The last time that we beat them, in a game was in 2018 when we beat them on penalties in the final of the WAFCON. And then, of course, we also beat them in 2016 in another WAFCON semi-final. So, yes, it's been very interesting ties against both sides. It's never an easy game, but we know how far South Africa have come over the past few years. They are, of course, the current champions of Africa, and they know that going to the Olympics and competing at the highest level against the other big teams across the world, especially after the outing that they had at this recent World Cup, will be a big deal for them. Um, I think it's going to be a very interesting battle. It's going to be a cagey affair. It's going to be a tense affair over two legs. But yes, Smith Layi, what are your thoughts on the history, the rivalry, and the head to head between the Super Falcons and Banyana?
Is they're one of our our actually what rivals in African football. He used to be Ghana before, but I think South Africa took over from Ghana because they also invested a lot in women's football and also trying to build a very big team. I remember this coach played in one AFCON final, one WAFCON final when we beat them 2-0 in front of their fans because they hosted the WAFCON and we beat them at home. When this coach was still playing football. So she's someone that had that revenge, at her heart because I watched one of her, what's it called? When she wrote a book. So she launched that book and she was talking about her experience, that when they were against Falcons, they went to play against Falcons then, that she was like, are they people performing magic? So since then she's been dreaming of coaching Banyana to see maybe she can make them African champions. So for me, I just think that the rivalry is there. I have to be honest with you. The last 3 games, they'll be slightly be having like the upper hand, the Aisha Buhari Cup. I will not count that. It's a friendly game. And if you look at the game, the team that played against South Africa too, we know that most of them now, they are not even part of the national team anymore. So even if you take the WAFCON team that played against Africa, you know that no, this team is not really the team, But I think this Nigerian team too evolved. So for me, I think it's a very big rivalry, and I think there's a lot at stake for this in this clash.
And just very quickly, let's just look at the squads for this game. Let's look at the squads for this game. On the South African side, let me start with the South African side. Coach Desiree Ellis called up 24 players. In goal, they have Rigel Ngobeni, Kelin Swart, and Katlego Moletsane. Defenders, they have Karabo Dlamini, Fikile Magama, Sesko Makubela, Lonatemba Mlongo, Bambanani Mbane, Nukumatlu Leboganga Melepe, and Bongeka Gamede. Any of my South African friends that are watching this, please, please, please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing any of these names. I'm trying my best. In midfield, they have Linda Motlalo, teammate of Uche Nakano at Louisville. They have Refilo Jane, they have Subilele Holweni, they have Nonlalala Mtandi, they have Amoglang Motau, they have Nomvula Kogale, they have Zinozolo Sesane. And then forwards, Gabriela Salgado, Jemon Sospewene, Noxolo Sesane, they have Hilda Magaya, they have Ntabi Seng Magia, and then they have, of course, their star player, Tembi Katlana. On the Super Falcon side, 3 goalkeepers, Chinamaka Nadozie, Tochiko Eluehi, and Linda Juwaku. Defenders, we have Osinachi Ohale. We had Ashley Plumptre originally called up, but unfortunately, she's not able to make the team and she has been replaced by Alani. We have Shukurat Oladipo, who, of course, is getting a chance to show herself at this highest level of football for the Super Falcons. We also have Michelle Alozie, we have Nicole Payne, and then we have the return of Chidima Okeke, who has been out of the squad for a while. Midfielders, we have Deborah Abiodun, Randy Waldrum's first daughter. We have Halimatu Ainde. We have Christy Uchebe. We have Jennifer Echegini, Rashidat Ajibade, the captain, and Tony Payne. And then forwards, we have Omar Sola Babajide. We have Esther Okoronkwo, Ifoma Onumonu, Wardrum second daughter, assistant Oshuala, Uchina Kanu, and then of course Gift Monday and Chinwendu Ihezuo. So yes, well stacked sides. I know that a lot of the South African players might not be known to many Nigerian players, rather Nigerian fans. But of course, there are some names that we're aware of and we have to be aware of. Dlamini in defense, of course. We have Noko Matlu in their defense as well. Very good players. We have in midfield Motlalo, a very good player. We have players like Magaya, players like Katlana, that of course we have to watch. Their biggest threat going forward is going to be Katlana. We know the quality that she has. We saw how she dazzled when she was playing for South Africa at the World Cup, and then she has a very good relationship and link up with Magaya and also with Motlalo coming in from that midfield. So it's a good South African side, but of course also a good Nigerian side. Similarly, any thoughts on the selection? Is there anybody that you think should have been there that is not there? Anybody that should not have been there? Just what are your thoughts on the squads?
For me, I think it's very hard to argue against this Falcon list because it's one list that when they release it from the NFF, it's always top notch. You can't come out and come and argue against it. Mention any player abroad that you think that is doing better than the players they've called now. I don't think you will mention anybody. For me, even looking at the underage self, I don't think they're even ripe enough to come and play this type of game. So for me, I think it's a top notch game. But my only worry is the replacement that Juma Kalani was called up. For me, Juma Kalani had a very terrible African games. Very slow defending, positional awareness not there. Second challenge, second balls always slow to hit, always miscontrol passes, not really aware of where she is. And she's also the captain of the team. So, in my opinion, I think that there have been a better left back or right back to be called up in the Nigerian league than to call up Jumoke Alani, in my opinion. So, I think that's the only question my coach would have about that. And also, I don't know, maybe she's injured. I think comfort for Lauren Shaw would have been better. I know that Shukra Sadako is a very good player too, but comfort has been with the team before. So despite that, he has been with the team before against Ethiopia also. He has been there. So I think that at least if you have made your debut before, you can still gel compared to someone that's is just coming from the All African Games and you want to throw that person to the deep end, of a crucial Olympic qualifier. So I think that's the only question mark I have. But if not, that we have injured players, for example, Tosin Demehin out injured, and also actually Plumptre. I think the two players I mentioned now, nobody will be talking about them. It's just because they're coming here for like injured players. That's the reason why. For me, I think it's a fair selection, but you have it at the back of your mind that you know what Randy will do with these players. I know.
Yeah, and I think you've spoken well. Definitely, it would have been good to have our starting defenders, Demey and Plumptre, available. But at the same time, I think he's going to use Alani and Oladipo more as backups rather than as his first choice options. We'll get to that when we're predicting the lineups. But I just think it's also interesting to see that players like Gloria Ogbonna that he has called in the past were not called for this one. Players like Akudo Ogbonna as well that have been
Mm-hmm.
called in the past were not called for this one. So I don't know if that's just a sign of maybe them not being completely trusted. I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's a case of, they just wanted to call somebody that was at home already instead of
Mm-hmm.
replacing them with more foreign based players. I don't know exactly, but I think that is definitely interesting to see. I want to see how he sets up the attack. Of course, we had Super Falcons players in good form over this past weekend ahead of the games. Ajibade was on target, Payne was on target, Kanu scored a brace, and Echegini scored a hat trick. How is the coach going to fit all these players on the field at the same time? Is he going to have to leave somebody on the bench? And then we also have threats from the bench. Ihezuo is a player that was part of the Super Falcons setup for a while. She was one of the young talents that seemed to be on her way to big things. Unfortunately, her career kind of tailored off a little bit, and she kind of became forgotten about because of injury. Even though Randy Wardrobe never forgot about her, because in several interviews, he had mentioned her as one of the good players that he just didn't have available due to injury. Now she's in the squad. I think she'll probably be on the bench, but it's going to be interesting to see how he potentially uses her in the game. And then, of course, we have the veteran presence, the Osinachi Hales. We have the Ifeoma Onumonu, who is an older player as well in the team. So we have the Oshuala, of course, who is an more experienced, older player in the team as well. And then, we still have the firepower of Babajide. We have Okoronkwo, who seems to be one of those players that goes under the radar. But then when it's time to score a goal, she's always there and ready to score a goal for the Super Falcons. Halimatu Ayinde is in that midfield as well. I made the joke that Deborah Abiodun is the coach's first daughter, but of course we know that he works closely with her and he obviously likes her. He took her to the World Cup as an 18-year-old college player, so she's going to be a presence in midfield as well. I think it's going to be interesting. I already mentioned that certain South African players we definitely need to pay attention to. We cannot underestimate them. I find that sometimes one of the things that Nigerian fans always do is that because we are Nigerians, we pay more attention to our own players. And
Mm-hmm.
then when we don't know the names of other players that we're facing, sometimes we tend to think that because we don't know them, that are not good players. But that's not
Mm-hmm.
the case. The South African girls are good. They have some star names, and then they have some names that are not star names, but it doesn't mean that they're not good players. They are a very, very well coached team, and care has to be taken. I want us to, of course, play that game on the front foot, play that game knowing and believing and going out to win, but with a sense of cautiousness as well, knowing that we cannot afford to make mistakes because South Africa will be there to pounce on those mistakes and to take advantage. But like I said, the Super Falcons players hit form at the right time. Smith Layi, do you think that with Ajibade scoring, with Payne scoring, with Kanu scoring, with Echegini backing a hat trick, can that momentum from their club can it follow them going into these matches against South Africa?
Yes, I think so. I think so. Form is always there. If you can be getting these numbers in your clubs, that means that they are doing something right. So
Hmm.
I think that that one can lead them to having more momentum, and they can actually which can actually help us against South Africa. So for me, I think that even looking at it, apart from South Africa beating Tanzania at the Azam Stadium, their last two games away from home against DR Congo and also against Burkina Faso, they drew the games 1-1. So it wasn't we too drew against Ethiopia too. So, but at least they are not really good travelers. They are not really actually good travelers. So, in my opinion, I think that if those guys can come to the party and we beat them very well in Abuja, I think the game in Pretoria is going to be a formality. So, I think the form they are showing now shows that if Randy Wardrum set these guys up very well, we might be very deadly against them.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, very, very, very well said. I want to ask you one more question before we start talking about lineups and we start, predicting what we think could happen in this game. We already spoke about it briefly. Plumptre and Demehin are out of this game.
Mhm.
Does that raise any fear in your mind? The fact that two of our starting defenders of our regular back four will not be available for this match. Does that
Yes,
bring any fear?
Yes, I have to be honest with you. It brings fear because when I saw the news that Ashley Plunger was going to be, he's not going to be available for the game, it's actually what makes me sad. And, because I, I think that the coach will use Plunger as the second central defender along with Osinachi Ohale and maybe probably Nico Payne as the left back. But with what really happened to her, for me, I think it's a very big miss. And secondly, to Tosin Demehin, when she got injured against Cameroon, I was wondering that, oh my days, let's just get me fit. Let's get me fit for the next game, because I knew that the game against Cameroon is close to South Africa. So if it's like injury, that's the nagging injury, it's going to take longer time for her to recover. There will be a very big miss, especially, we are going to be planning to see how we can stop the counter attack, from South Africa, because it's going to be the counter attack from them is going to be very, very, they are very little, in their counter attack. So Maguire, Motlalo, and Katlana, you mentioned, transitions are very, very superb. So I think that we need the pace of those girls to actually work. But I think that if we'll be set up very well, I think that they're going to be in for it.
And on that, I would say, I don't know if I would say I have a bit of fear. And the reason I don't really have much fear is because I believe in the quality of the players that could potentially back up for them. I'll talk about that when we're talking about our lineups for the game. But my concern would be if, God forbid, we happen to have another injury, maybe in the first game or during the second match, during one of the matches. I think that's when I'll become a bit more concerned. Because of course you don't want your side to be too weak. The Super Falcons team, with all due respect to them, we're very top heavy. We have a lot of good attackers, many quality attackers, even ones that we don't call up sometimes. But in defense, we have good defenders, but we don't have too many backup options that are on the same level as the starting players. So while I think we should have good enough substitutes for the two injured players, if anything else should happen and we have to throw in a Jumoke Alani or we have to throw in Shukurat into the fold, I think my heart will be in my mouth. I'll be very scared for them. Because even as good as Tosin Demehin has come to be for the Super Falcons, I remember when she made her first few appearances for the Super Falcons, it was a very shaky one. She was making us nervous. I remember she scored an own goal in the game against, was it the USA? So it's never easy for a young
Yes,
player
yes.
to just come into the team like that. It's never easy for a defender, especially when you're going up against quality attackers like the players that South Africa have in their ranks. So I'm not scared, but there is maybe a slight bit of nervousness in my heart, in my body, based on what could potentially happen. What I pray doesn't happen, but what could potentially happen. Because it's football. You never know how things are going to unfold. Smith Layi, before we move into our lineups for the game, do you want to add anything very quickly?
No, I just want to say that the if the pitch is in a very good condition too, I think it's going to really help the players. Maybe they should try and work on the pitch for the next 2 days so that at least these guys can actually be able to string passes together. For me, I think that I'm nervous about the game slightly because I know what South Africa can actually do. But for me, I'm still I still think that we're going to go through.
Mm. And
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing I would say is that the pitch is not going to be in a great condition. We can pray that the pitch is okay, but we're talking about a game in the MK Abiola Stadium in Abuja. The pitch is going to be okay at best. It's not going to be a great pitch, unfortunately for us. The pitch in South Africa might actually be the better pitch, but of course, South Africa have been doing campaigns. Even if you go on their social media, they are trying to hype up all their content creators, hype up everybody. They said they must fill the stadium when they are playing against Nigeria in that second leg. So it's definitely a big deal. I'll say the nerves, were allowed to be nervous. This is like a cup final. Even
Mm-hmm.
though it's two matches, it's like a cup final because we have the chance to go for our first Olympic Games since 2008. I know that all the players, they want to go to the Olympics. It's one of those extra things that you just want to have the feather in your cap and say that
Mm-hmm.
you're an Olympian, say that you've been there. You go and rub shoulders with the best athletes in your sports in the world, from all the countries in the world. It's a big deal. The only player that has been there, like Mitlai has rightly mentioned in the past, Stochiko Oluwehi. The rest of the players in this squad haven't been there, and I know that they would all want to make it happen. So Friday, April 5th for the first game. and then April 9th for the second game in South Africa is going to be an interesting one. Okay, so let's move on to our lineups, our setup for the game against South Africa, for the games against South Africa. Should I go first or Smith Layi, do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, I can go first. So, of course, this is a Randy Wardrum side. So I'm expecting to see a disciplined team. I'm expecting to see a team that plays very well, to their instructions. And I'm expecting a team to set up in a 4-2-3-1 formation. In goal, I expect to see Chiamaka Nadozie. Anything other than that, and I might lose my mind. So expect Chiamaka Nadozie to be in goal. From right
Mhm.
back, I think Randy Wardrum is going to go with his trusted soldier, Michel Alozie, from the right back position. Center back, I think Osinacho Hale, that veteran presence, the quality, the solidity that she brings is definitely going to be there. And then, unfortunately, her regular partner, Tosin Demehin, is out of action. So I think the coach is going to make Christy Uchebe play as a centre back in this game. He's going to ask Christy Uchebe to potentially do a job for him and cover that gap that Blessing Demehin has left. I think Christy Uchebe will play alongside Osinachi Ohale. And then at left back, I believe that Randy Wardrum is going to go with Nico Payne. Again, in the absence of Ashley Plumptre and also Tosin Demehin, I think Nico Payne, she's pacey. She's now playing in the NWS and in the USA. I'm sure the coach would have watched her 2 matches that she's played so far this season, and he would want her to do a job for the Super Falcons. In midfield, I believe the coach is going to go with Halimatu Ainde. We know Halimatu Ainde, if you tell her to mark a player, she go mark that player die. She knows how to do a job in midfield, and I believe that the coach is going to play her there. And I think alongside Halimatu Ainde is going to be Jennifer Echegini. I think Echegini is going to be somebody that is so hard to ignore with the kind of form that she's in right now, the kind of performances that she's been putting in for Juventus. I think that the coach is going to play her alongside Ainde in that midfield. And then the forward players, I'm expecting to see Ajibade start from the left-hand side. Rashad Ajibade, the captain of the team. I'm expecting to see Uche Nakanu start from the right-hand side. This one is a bit of a tricky one, I must say, because Uche Nakanu at club level plays as a striker, and I also think that she's better as a finisher, as a striker. I've made this comment before, even during the World Cup, I said it that Uche Nakanu is one of those players that when she has multiple options, she often tends to pick the wrong option. But when there's only one thing for her to do, she's very good at it. And when she's playing as a striker, you give her the ball. The only thing that she has to do is head it in or is to take a shot and score. She's good at it. But sometimes when she plays from the flank and she can either run to the byline, she can cut back, she can cross, she can play a pass to the edge of the box. Sometimes I think she starts to overthink things and she often makes the wrong decision. But I think that for the purpose of this game, she's probably going to start from the right-hand side. And then up front, I think the coach is going to start Asisat Oshoala. I would have been tempted to say he's going to go with his second daughter and play Ifeoma Onumonu up front. But I think that the coach is going to be cognizant of the fact that Onumonu hasn't really been playing for her club, Vita Royals, this season. Oshoala has been playing for BFC. Oshoala has been performing well for BFC. She seems to be fit, fully fit now. And I think that Oshoala's presence is definitely one that will pose some fear in the South Africa defenders. Oshoala is one of those players that even if they're not scoring a goal, just Oshoala being on the field, coming at you, running towards you, you're going to have some fear in your body because you know the kind of quality that she has. The GOAT of African football. So that's my predicted lineup. 4-2-3-1. I think is a strong lineup. Is almost as strong as the Super Falcons team gets. And I believe that it can be a winning lineup for us. How about you, Smith?
Yeah, I like your lineup, but you know what I'm just going to look at is that I want to look at in a way that the team can line up and they can actually play very well to their potential. So for me, I was tempted to go for a 3-5-2 formation. I think he might actually do that one in South Africa, but I think in Abuja it might be less threat. I'm going to go with goalkeeper Chama Kanadoze. I don't think I will go for Sushi Olui or the Wadu. Even closing your eyes, even if you sing yourself with one leg, she will still play. So I think Michelle Aloze is going to be the right back. Despite playing forward for our club sides, I think she's going to be maintaining the right back. I think central defense too. It's going very hard for you to bring Chidima Okeke in. After it's been a long time. So I think Christy Uchebe would not like this, but I'm gonna have to go with you. I think it's going with Christy Uchebe playing alongside Osina Joale. And I think she, did that. He did that too in last game when the man actually got injured and Yamatu and they came to the midfield. Uchebe actually was dropped to the center defense. I think left back is, and I'm going to go with Nico Payne too. I think there's no way you can, I still believe that you cannot bring it McCallany in. He's just there to train. That's my opinion. And in the midfield, because Christie is not there, I think it's going to be Deborah Abiodun and Ushena and what's it called, and Alimatu Ainde. I think in that midfield. So, but I will now go by, in front of them, to the Payne. Just in front of them, I think I'll actually go to hard work to the Payne. And, it might benefit us to play 4-4-2, but I think I'm going to go for a 4-3-3. I think Tony Payne in front of them. And I also think that Ajibade is going to be on the left. I think up front is where I'm going to actually go against you. I think I'm going to start Esther Koronko. I think I'm going to actually start Esther Koronko. I just think that, that youthfulness, that playfulness, you don't really know what she's going to do. I think Oshoala, a lot of people know now the threats Oshoala going to pose to them. So I think Oshoala warming up and coming off the bench, I think against a tired South African back line, I think that one might actually will benefit us. I think at the start of the game, they might be at the peak of their power, trying to muscle her before you know it, she's tired already to out. But I think that it's due to Koronko, Oshoala can come in. I would have gone for Uchenna Kanu, but I just think that now Koronko, she's just someone that plays with the ball, and I think I'm going to go with Jennifer Ichegine as the third player up front. So that's my lineup. I think I will just try and bring Informa Onumuno, bring her on, because I know that one thing that will help us is that just cross the ball. They are not tall. See, as far as they can jump higher than them, it's finished. So I went to their last game from the World Cup. In fact, 90% of the goals that Africa considered was through crosses. They cannot go. USA played against them 5-0, no, 3-0 and 2-0. The 5 of them were from crosses. Against the Netherlands, 2 from crosses, World Cup. Against Italy, from crosses. Against Sweden, from crosses. They cannot just, I don't know, they can't just do anything. So I think that if you have someone that can head the ball very well, players like Uchenna Kanu coming on, players like Ifeoma Onumonu coming on, I think that they're going to be in trouble.
All right. So we differed in midfield. You went with Deborah Abiodun, whereas I went with Echegini and Halimatu Ainde. And then in attack, you moved Echegini from my midfield to your attack, and you took out Oshoala for Esther Okonkwo. I think both lineups are strong. If it goes with your own instead of my own, I think it will still be a good lineup. It's still a team that can win the game. And speaking of winning the game, let's go over to our predictions. I know Smith Layi already said he wants me to predict first. So yes, I think it's going to be a tough match. Again, like I mentioned earlier in this episode, South Africa have had the better of us in recent games. So I'm not going to deceive myself and say that the Super Falcons are going to go and blow them out of the park. But with so much on the line, with this Super Falcons team, after the performances that they had at the World Cup, and Randy Waldrum still at the helm, um, coordinating this team, coaching this team, setting this team up. I just believe that the Super Falcons have enough to edge South Africa. And I'm going to go with, in Abuja, I'm going to go with a 1-0 victory for the Super Falcons. And in South Africa, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. And I will say that the Super Falcons will eventually qualify for the Olympics with a 2-1 aggregate victory. That is my prediction. 1 in Abuja, 1-1 in South Africa, and we are going to the Olympics. How about you, Smith Layi?
Well, I said you go first. So you are not picking my prediction, so I'm going to actually say this one now. When I was talking about this game, Christy came to the live, and I said it in pidgin language, say, make una beat them for us. And she sent a text that na 2-0. So this prediction is Christy inspired prediction. This prediction is Christy inspired prediction. I'm going to go for a 2-0. Yes, for a 2-0 victory for Nigeria in Abuja, and another victory for Nigeria in South Africa, maybe like a 2-1 or 3-1, because I know that we're going to play better in South Africa.
All right. I hope you're right. But say Smith Layi, your own scoreline not ever come true. But all in all, the important thing, no matter the scoreline, the important thing is that the Super Falcons should qualify for the Olympics. Please, I'm begging you. Smith Layi said he wants to go to Paris. Myself, make I go enjoy Paris for at least 1-2 weeks of Olympics, summer vibes. Let's enjoy. The bed bugs are there, but we'll sort it out.
Yes.
But the rest of Paris, let's enjoy it. I've never been to an Olympics in my life. It's going to be a fun one. I mean, football will be the main focus, but Nigerians would also qualify in other sports. Potentially, you can also just use some free time to watch other sports, maybe athletics,
Yeah.
wrestling, weightlifting, and all the others. Of course, basketball. I think our girls qualified on the basketball side as well. I know the men didn't
Yes.
qualify.
They did.
So the Olympics is we know that it is like it's the only competition that can compete with World Cup in terms of, the level that we rate it. Olympic Games is a serious thing, and I pray that they qualify. They missed out on the last one when I think they shouldn't have missed out. They lost to Ivory Coast, but another time, another opportunity, and hoping that they can see us through this time. Of course, for everybody that's watching and listening, please, please, please engage with us. Let us know your predicted lineups. Let us know your prediction for the scoreline. My South African friends, feel free to comment as well. I want to engage with you. I want to go back and forth and banter you guys. And may the best team win. Smith Layi, final word before we end this one.
Yeah, yes, what you said, the best team wins. Not Nigeria. In fact, if you don't play well, Nigeria must win. That is not the best team to win. Nigeria must win. Even if we did play rubbish, we must win in both legs. We must win. So, I think I want Nigeria to win. I'm sorry, African people listening. See, and I go the way tire. You will learn. You will learn the hard way. So, so I want to appreciate our listeners. Guys, you have been fantastic. I get DMs and all that. When you and your team dropping this spot again now, the status of these things now. But don't worry, guys, you are having it regularly, and I hope that when next we come, not to celebrate, say we sing Olympic song to enter the podcast.
Amazing,
Yes.
amazing. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. Make sure you like the video, you like the podcast, wherever you may be listening or watching. Make sure you share it with your friends, your families, on your different group chats, different forums, and let's get everybody engaged and supporting the Super Falcons. And of course, do not forget to subscribe to the channel so that you keep on enjoying this fantastic Nigerian football content. My name is AyoT. This is the Niger FC podcast. My co-host is
Smith Layi. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.